Good evening and welcome to Daily Red Devil for all of your latest Manchester United transfer news and talk. I hope everyone is doing well on this Friday evening. We're back with another massive show to bring you guys tonight. But before we jump into that, smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and let's get straight on into it. On the show tonight, we are going to be talking and reacting to a shock alternative to Michael Elise. This story broke about half an hour about a player that apparently Manchester United are targeting if Michael Elise doesn't end up at Manchester United. We're also going to be talking a bit about Dan Ashworth, with apparently an agreement in principle now being reached between Manchester United and Dan Ashworth. Also talking about a player who we signed in the summer who looks set to leave the club this summer. So a new signing that we signed only, I think, about 6 months ago, apparently is going to leave Manchester United in the summer. Lots and lots to get into. And as always, I invite you to have your say on all things Manchester United in the comments section below. Get involved. Let me know how you're feeling. I always like to see what other United fans have to say. So let's start the show off with the player that's apparently going to be leaving in the summer. And you know what? I don't think this will come as much as a surprise, to be honest with you. So this is coming out from multiple different journalists this afternoon. A couple here in the UK, a couple in Turkey, and it relates to Altay Bayindr. And the headline is that apparently Altay Bayindr is Galatasaray's top target for the goalkeeper position this summer. It says Bayindr is keen on joining a club where he can have more chances to play. And you know what? I don't blame him. He's come to Manchester United, obviously, after being the first team goalkeeper for Besiktas, is the first team goalkeeper for the Turkish international team, came very highly regarded. Some people in the fan base wanted to see him play instead of Onana. He's played once so far, and that was against Newport. And that was only really because Onana was at Africa Cup of Nations duty, you know. If Onana was here, he wouldn't have played. It's as simple as that. And you know what? I think he did all right against Newport. I'm not going to sit here and say he's world class. It's a disgrace that he's not playing, because I've not really seen much of him. You know, it's hard to formulate an opinion based off somebody who only played one game against a League Two side. But he looked good. He didn't look bad. He didn't look amazing. He just looked like a decent goalkeeper. Am I upset about this? Not really, to be honest. I mean, it's a bit disappointing. Obviously, some will say that Onana's been given too much game time, but if you actually really, really think about it, okay, and this is probably going to come across as a bit controversial, Onana in the Champions League was absolutely awful. It was arguably his fault that we didn't qualify for the next round. You know, he made some absolutely unforgivable mistakes. You know, even if you just think about the ones he made against Bayern Munich, there was a couple of other games where he made awful mistakes, unforgivable, and that's at the highest level. But in the Premier League, he's been all right, I think. Like he's not been good, but he's not been terrible. I think for people to say sell Onana, get him out of my club, all the rest of it, I think it's maybe a little bit unfair if you look at his Premier League stats so far. You know, most of the goalkeepers, the greats of Manchester United who have come over the last 10, 20 years in the goalkeeper position, always had a shaky start at Man United. So for Onana to, you know, be having some difficulties, I think it is to be expected. And as I said, if you actually look at how he's done in the Premier League, I think he's been all right. I really, really do. I think he made some important saves against Villa. He hasn't made any really big mistakes in the Premier League recently, as far as I can remember. Only in the Champions League, where it's been really, really bad. So, am I surprised about this? Not really. I think, you know, Altay Bayindr is too good to not play football at all. You know, he's still young. He's an international goalkeeper who should be playing football. So, if he does end up going to Galatasaray, I wish him all the best. You know. Well, how much did we pay for him? Let's have a look. We only paid €5 million for him. So I can see this one happening. I think that probably will happen. Man United have got a couple of other goalkeepers in the youth academy who could come through and fill that position. But let me know in the comment section, guys. What do you think about this story? Altay Bayindr to Galatasaray, apparently wanting to leave the club because of a lack of game time at Manchester United. Moving on to the next topic, let's talk a little bit about this shock name that's been thrown into the mix today as a potential option if Michael Elise doesn't sign for Man United. And the player is Kvaratskhelia. I always struggle to say his name. I always just call him Kvara. Obviously plays for Napoli, left winger. Let's try and do it again. Kvaratskhelia. I think that was okay. I think that was all right. Let me know in the comment section. How was my pronunciation of his name? Anyway, This story has just broke this afternoon from a couple of different people, one in Turkey, one in Italy, one in England, saying that Man United are preparing to sign Kvaratskhelia if they fail to sign Michael Olise this summer. Now, this is where I make this part of the show interactive. I want you guys to get in the comment section and let me know, who would you prefer to have at Manchester United? Would you like to have Michael Olise, obviously Premier League proven, or would you like to have Kvaratskhelia? Let me know in the comment section. Obviously, Kvara can play left wing, right wing, and as a striker. Very, very versatile. He has a contract until 2027, so for 3 more years. Michael Olise is more of just a right winger. There are some people saying that he's injury prone. I'm not sure if I buy into the whole injury prone thing of Michael Olise. Like, if you actually look at his injury record, he's had a bit of a slow season. A bit of a poor season this year with injuries, but generally it's been okay. If we compare the stats though, because that's, of course, an important thing. This season so far, Kvara at Napoli has got 10 goals and assists in 21 games. So he's averaging a goal or an assist every other match at the moment, which I think is pretty good. I'm happy with that. I know a few people have been saying to me, he's not been very good this season. The Napoli fans want him out. And I mean, I'll be honest, I don't watch Napoli every single week, so it's difficult for me to fully comment. But from what I've seen of him in the Champions League and stuff, he looks like a really good player. If you compare that with Michael Olise, he's played 11 games so far in the Premier League this season, scoring 6 goals and getting 3 assists. So his stats are slightly better. Almost getting a goal or an assist every single game on average, which is really, really impressive for, somebody who's only 22 years of age, playing in a pretty weak Crystal Palace side in the Premier League. Me personally, I would probably go with Michael Olise. I think Kvaratskhelia will cost a lot more money. I think he'd probably be somewhere around 80 to 100 million euros. Whereas we know that Michael Olise has a release clause of about 60 million, which is about 55 million pounds. So for me personally, based on the fact that we're going to need to sign probably 5 to 10 players this summer, I would go with Michael Olise. But it is good to know that Man United do have other options and they aren't just, putting all of their eggs in one basket. That's how we've got burnt in the past, with Anthony. They knew from the beginning that we only wanted Anthony. That was the only person we wanted, and we'd pay the stupid money, and they pulled the wool over our eyes, and they did us, didn't they, Ajax, ultimately. But at least with this, it looks like Jim Ratcliffe and the rest of the team that he's forming have already identified some targets. And the general narrative coming out of Old Trafford is that they're not going to be held ransom for crazy transfer fees anymore. They're going to pay what they think is fair, and if the other club don't accept it, they'll walk away. So I think this is a positive, and both of these players I like. I would honestly be happy with either of them, but I probably would go with Michael Olise if I had to pick, based on the profile, based on the statistics over the last couple of years, and based on how much money I think it would cost. But again, let me know in the comment section, who would you like to see at Man United? Michael Olise or Kvaratskhelia? Always like to see what you guys have to say, so make sure you get in the comment section. The final story for today's video is about Dan Ashworth, and the headline breaking in the last half an hour literally is that apparently Dan Ashworth now has an informal agreement with Man United and Ineos. He is waiting for them to make an official approach and agree a compensation package with Newcastle. So if Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos can do a deal with Newcastle, he will become our director of football. He's agreed terms with Man United. He wants the job. So I'm excited about this. I am excited about it. I think Dan Ashworth will be the perfect person to bring in. And I've got no complaints whatsoever. 0 complaints. Let's hope that this happens. Let's hope it happens quickly. And let's hope that we don't spend too much money in this compensation package. The figures that are being touted at the moment is somewhere between 10 and 20 million. I know that's quite a broad spectrum, but it's good to gauge a little bit, what the minimum is versus what the maximum is going to be. So 10 to 20 million in order to buy Dan Ashworth out of his contract at Newcastle. Let me know what you think about that. Do you think do you think that's a bad decision? I will say this. I think it's pretty crazy that managers and directors of football are now going for so much money. All you have to do is rewind your memory back to, was it 2022, 23, when Graham Potter was approached by Chelsea, and Chelsea paid Brighton £22.5 million in order to bring Graham Potter to Chelsea. 6 months later, they sack him, and they reportedly had to pay Graham Potter, I think, around £13 million in compensation because they sacked him. Just let that sink in for a minute. They paid $22.5 million for a manager, sacked him 6 months later, and then paid $13 million to get rid of him. I mean, it's crazy, isn't it? But that's the way that this world's going in now in relation to football. It's strange, but it's where we are. Let me know what you think about that. Do you like the way football's going? I know money has almost ruined football in some ways, but do you like it? I assume most of you don't, but let me know what you guys think. But that's all for tonight's show. I hope you have enjoyed all of today's discussion. Please do make sure to smash a like on the video before you go. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. This has been Daily Red Devil, and I'll speak to you all a bit later.